Working is presented by Maya Strategy Group, a leading market research and strategy consulting firm, helping clients in the pet care and animal health industries navigate strategic challenges for almost 2 decades. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pet Working. I'm Peter Kenseth, Vice President at Maya Strategy Group. And just in time for the holidays, we've got a great episode on track for you today, looking at potentially the future of pet adoptions. I'm thrilled to be joined by Nicole Patrick, founder and CEO of Rescue Spot. Nicole was introduced to me by another Pet Working guest, alumnus, Daisy Chavez of Pet Insurance Review, and Daisy put Nicole and I in touch, and I was really psyched to talk to Nicole because what she's developed here with Rescue Spot really struck a personal chord for me because one of my childhood friends, who is also a guest alumnus of Pet Working, Andrew Stickney, had this idea for sort of a universal dog and cat rescue application app. And that is exactly what Nicole has built here. And this was a project I think Andrew took on 10, maybe 15 years ago, and there were a lot of logistical challenges back then. But when I saw this, I was like, this is exactly what he envisioned. And I think takes a lot of the complexity out of pet adoptions and hopefully is going to lead to finding many more pets homes and eliminating that complexity. So, Nicole, thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome to Pet Working.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here and to speak with you today.
Yeah, no, this is great. This is great. Now, Nicole, when we first met, you mentioned that you kind of have a unique perspective here because you are not only a pet parent, a pet adopter, pet parent to rescue dogs and cats, but you've also worked on the shelter side of things. And this has been a lifelong passion for you. Can you talk a little bit about your background and what led you to come up with Rescue Spot?
Absolutely. It was a very long journey that brought me here, filled with lots of different experiences. I've always loved animals my whole life since I was a little girl, like many of us do. I had dreams of being a veterinarian, and then life took me in a different direction. I started acting in film and TV at a pretty young age, and when I was about 10 years old. And so when I was in high school, I was living alone, doing a lot of TV shows and movies, and I still had this urge to help animals, but I wasn't able to help out in the traditional way by volunteering at a shelter because my schedule was just very hectic and unreliable. Around the same time, I learned about the horrors of puppy mills. I went to a pet store on a whim just because I was walking by and saw some cute puppies and saw a very sick dog there, and kept going back and kept trying to figure out a way that I could help this animal. And the ASPCA and all these amazing organizations, were so overwhelmed with the animals that they had, so they couldn't help me. And so I ended up raising the money to buy this dog. She was in the hospital for months and months, and I found out that she wasn't being fed at the pet store and that she came from a horrible puppy mill, and connected with a lot of people who had had similar experiences from pet stores. And so all of a sudden, this whole world was opened up to me about adopting animals, and that these pet stores are very cruel, and so many of the animals are unhealthy, and that there are a lot of ways that you can procure an animal in a different way than just going to the easiest option in front of you. So I decided to start a little matchmaking service where I would gear my services towards the people who are going to these high-end pet stores and looking for more designer breed dogs. And I was basically a matchmaker for them. I would go to shelters and to rescue organizations and try and find pets that filled the needs of these people that were looking for animals. And essentially what I did was fill out like thousands of applications to adopt pets all over America with all different kinds of rescues and shelters. And I was filling out all these applications that were essentially the same questions, but just like being worded differently. So, do you plan on letting your dog go outside alone, or do you plan on monitoring your dog while it's outside? Or basically the same questions that all of these applications are asking, but they have their own way of phrasing it. And so it was very frustrating for me because I was constantly filling out these applications and I was never hearing back from the rescues or shelters. I would just send them out, send applications, send emails, phone calls, and they would never get back to me. And if they did get back to me, 9 times out of 10, that pet had been adopted months ago, and the rescues and shelters just didn't have time to update their website and update their different pet listing networks that they used. So it was extremely frustrating. Most of the people that worked with me ended up going to a breeder or a pet store because they just didn't want to wait for a pet to come up that was adoptable. And most of them got very frustrated with the process, saying, well, I don't understand. I'm trying to do good. I'm trying to save an animal. Why is it that they won't give me an animal? I know there are so many pets that need help. So it's very frustrating for me as well, because I didn't know what to tell them. I just was trying my best to get these animals adopted and committing huge amounts of time to doing this. A few years later, I decided that I no longer wanted to work in the film industry. I really wanted to commit my life to working with animals. And so I started
You were doing all this on top of acting.
I was doing all this on top of acting. In my free time, I'd be like on set and, on my laptop and looking for different pets that were available, scouring Facebook for adoptable dogs.
Wow. So so you definitely got a firsthand view, into the inefficiencies of the system and, why can't we just have a universal database that everybody can buy into, right? Like if we're trying to vet people to be to assess whether they're going to be qualified pet parents and whether they're qualified to adopt a dog, you'd think that's a pretty universal standard, right? Like essentially we're talking like a credit bureau for pet adoptions, right?
Exactly. And the people that I was working with, I made sure that they were going to be amazing pet parents, and all they wanted, just like with traditional adoption of babies, all they wanted was something to love and something to cherish and take care of. But they're kind of like in the dark without a light, not knowing what to do or where to go.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, and even people who have, successfully adopted, and, I don't want to paint the picture that it's impossible to adopt a pet. We adopted Annie 7 years ago this January. And, it was a very smooth process. We submitted the application, were approved, went to this adoption awareness event that they were having at PetSmart. We put in an application with that shelter the day before. We went back to the shelter. We were like, yeah, we're interested in her. And they sent her home with us. But I know for a lot of people that, particularly in your case, where if you're looking for, a puppy or a specific breed of dog, or, certainly all dogs need to be rescued, but, like I think you said, if you put a golden retriever, purebred golden retriever up for adoption, a lot of people are going to jump at that because the alternative is going and paying a few $1,000s or more to a breeder to get that puppy. So people almost look at it like bargain shopping in a way, right?
Absolutely.
Um,
There's different angles, and it really also depends on where you are. If you're in New York or in the metro areas of New York, the cut recently in an article that I always refer back to, they said that it's harder to adopt a pet in New York than it is to get your child into New York City private schools. And it's true. Because I live in New York, I have people constantly just saying, this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And these are very successful people who have worked really hard in their life.
wow. Wow. So you have the experience of, having found in this matchmaking service. You're trying to, prevent people from, obtaining animals through like backyard breeders or puppy mills or, other places that, maybe fostering poor treatment of the animals that they are profiting from. Um, but then, when you left acting, you went and you worked in a shelter. So you got to see the other side of this and you got to see the applications coming in. Tell us about that.
Exactly. So I left acting and I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do something with animals. I actually moved to Africa immediately after for a few months and worked with cheetahs and leopards and lions and all sorts of animals. And when I got back to the US, I was like, that was really cool. I decided I didn't want to fully move my life to Africa and continue that. And I said, well, how can I do this while staying in New York and staying with around my family and my animals? And I started just volunteering at different shelters and rescues, and I got to see what it was like as a volunteer and why I got to see a little bit of why it was difficult for rescue organizations and shelters to actually manage adoptions because there's just so much that needs to be done. Then later on, I started actually working in real employee positions for rescues and shelters. I worked for a large rescue in Manhattan where I was dealing with 60, 70 adoptions a weekend, and just a huge amount of pets being adopted from this powerhouse rescue. And I was their only employee. And I was really then able to see, like, okay, this is why the adoption and rescue process is so broken, because you've got these rescue organizations that in theory should be making a ton of money and should be able to have so many employees helping them out, but really all the money is going back to saving the animals and to the vetting and all of this process that needs to be done just to get the animals here. So all of the work is put either on the founder or the founder and an employee and maybe 5 volunteers who have hectic schedules that are able to help out. And what that entails is constantly reading applications. Like you mentioned, a golden retriever puppy can easily get 200 applications within just a few hours of it going online. Nowadays, Pet Finder and Adopt a Pet also have notifications for when when the type of breed you're interested in comes online. So that number is just exponentially rising because you've got 1,000 people looking for a golden retriever and all submitting their application at once. So you've got to read through so many applications. Half the time, the applications aren't filled out all the way, are filled out by children or people who have given up tons of pets or people who aren't really serious about the process. And then also a lot of people who really are serious. And then you've got a huge batch of applications that now you have to call 3 to 5 references and track down references and find out information about the adopter, because of course the number one priority for rescues and shelters is not only to get the pet adopted, but to get them adopted into the best possible home, A, so that the pet is safe, and B, so that the pet isn't returned to the rescue and then having to deal with a second or third or fourth trauma in their life that then just makes them quite often more and more unadoptable because it affects their personality, which is totally understandable.
Yeah.
So there's just so much that goes on behind the scene that people don't realize, and there's not that much out there to support rescues and shelters.
Now, when you were, and maybe this will be a good segue for you to start telling us a little bit about Rescue Spot. When you were in that role and you're reading, these hundreds of applications, right? I hear you talk about that, and it reminds me, we're a boutique consulting firm here, and when I handle a lot of our recruiting, and when I post a job and I use Easy Apply on LinkedIn, I am flooded with applications, and it's great because you get a broader talent pool, but that also means that I've got to look through 300 applications where maybe some of the people aren't that serious about being interested in it. Maybe maybe they're not qualified. Maybe they didn't read chances are we're going to get a good candidate, but, there is a balance between, um, having 300 applications to read through and getting to the perfect candidate and having, 10, 15, 20. And I don't know, recruiting is not my primary job function. It's, a hat I wear as a partner in a small business. But I look, one of the things that does help me is I look at, I have certain items that I'm looking for that I can use to kind of filter that pool down. When you're looking at a few hundred applications for prospective pet parents. What were you using to kind of call through, and how did that lead to what you've developed here with Rescue Spot?
It it's a myriad of things. It's so difficult because in a sense you're almost like, oh, I wish I just got five mediocre applications that maybe I could, really find the diamond in the rough with them, as opposed to hundreds of applications that some are great and some are terrible. And then how do you decide? Um, it was a mix of things. It would be, okay, let's say I'm reading 200 applications, because most rescues really do say, I want to read all of the applications that I'm getting maybe in the first 4 days, because I want to give this pet the best possible chance at the best home. So it's not just the first application that seems okay, this is pretty good, that they're going to take. So you read all those applications, and it's a lot of it is chance. If the references answer in time, you can spend upwards of 30 to 40 hours a week just tracking down references for small to medium-sized rescue. It's do they have all the permissions that they need from their landlords? Have they had pets in the past? And a lot of it is the commitment. How committed are they to this pet? Because maybe you haven't had a pet in the past, but if you're answering all of my questions saying that you will stay with that pet no matter what, if you get divorced, if you get sick, if the pet gets sick, if the pet has behavioral issues, you're going to work through it and stay with that pet, then that's a great candidate in my mind. Different things like that with the actual application are great A+ star student applications that I would see. But a lot of it comes down to, are their references answering? Am I able to get through to their vet? Is the information about their vet there? Do they have a vet lined up? Different things like that. And those aspects are aspects that with technology today, technology today can be harnessed to narrow down the hundreds of applications and say, okay, these are the top 10 applications that meet your needs, that have the references, that have everything for you. So then you can still, as a human with compassion and with your own idea of who this pet should go to, look at this smaller pool of applications and say, okay, of these 5 applications, this is the perfect person. And not only is this perfect person, but now I have 4 other great applications that I can keep in mind for the future.
Sure. Sure. And now, have you built all of these functionalities into Rescue Spot? Talk to us. You mentioned Adopt a Pet, Pet Finder. I think those are the 2 large platforms that everybody's aware of here in the U.S. Talk to us a little bit about Rescue Spot.
Yes.
What went into it, and what makes you guys different? How do you
Yep.
see yourself as standing in the pet adoption space?
Yeah, so Rescue Spot really is an end-to-end platform that simplifies, streamlines, and standardizes the entire pet adoption process for both pet adopters and rescue organizations. So we're really a double-sided marketplace that's trying to cater to pet adopters and simplify the entire process, as well as pet rescue organizations and shelters, and also connect these 2 parties. So just like Pet Finder or Adopt a Pet, adopters are able to go onto Rescue Spot and search through pets nationwide that are available to adopt and also to foster. So we are one of the first fostering platforms out there that you can see fosterable pets in your area and apply to them. The big thing about Rescue Spot for adopters, which is really what sets us apart from Pet Finder and Adopt a Pet, is that when an adopter or foster registers for Rescue Spot, they fill out a one-time universal application that they can use to instantly apply to any pet on the platform. So kind of like the Common App for colleges, it's the Common App for pets to adopt. And then they're able to do everything that they would need to do all through Rescue Spot. So you can instant message. We have a Facebook style messaging system. They are able to see the status of their application. So quite often after you send an application into the ether, you're like, okay, what's going on? Did they get it? Did they not get it? And then you just never hear back. With Rescue Spot in your dashboard, you can see if your application has been opened, if it's pending, if it was denied, why it was denied. If you've been approved, of course, then you're notified immediately. And if somebody else adopts a pet before you and you've already sent in an application for that pet, you get notified instantly. So then you can go on and continue your search without just waiting and saying, well, I don't want to apply for any more pets because maybe that pet will come through for me. adopters are able to donate to any pet on the platform or to any rescue. They're able to see volunteer opportunities in their area. They are able to see upcoming adoption events in their area. They are, like I mentioned, able to actually foster pets. So currently, a lot of people want to foster a pet. It's a great way of learning how to take care of a pet. It's a great way to show young children the responsibilities of a pet without the actual responsibility and time commitment of a full-time pet. But there isn't really anywhere out there that you can see fosterable pets on your area. The Pet Finder and Adopted Pet don't show fosterable pets. And really the only way to find a foster opportunity is like scouring through Facebook or finding a rescue in your area that is in need of fosters and doesn't already have a foster group of their own. So with Rescue Spot, just like with adoptable pets, you can see fosterable pets, you can apply to them instantly. Once you are approved for a pet, you're able to sign all the adoption contracts, pay the adoption donations, purchase pet insurance, purchase other things that you might need that are specified to your specific pet. So if your pet has arthritis, but also has a sensitive stomach, we can point you in the right direction of the best possible foods for them, and really just an A to Z end-to-end platform for adopters.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, putting my business hat on here, and obviously the work of adopting pets is, it's true, love. It's truly admirable. It's needed. But there, as you said, there's a huge business on, that surrounds pet adoptions. We did an episode with Connection Point and Daryl Hatton, and they have Pet Funder as their pet crowdfunding platform, and we were talking about it. You see so much investment into shelter programs because, like you said, shelters are underfunded. Shelters, there's not enough time or employees or money for them to do everything that they need to do. Pets need to eat. They need bedding. They need, bowls. They need toys. You need to be able to pay people to take care of them, take them out for walks. It is a village mentality, but the benefit to corporations here is that not only can you foster corporate social responsibility and generate consumer goodwill through your philanthropic efforts with shelters, it's a great opportunity to introduce people to your product. And you see Purina and Pedigree with Mars Pet Care, and Hills, they all invest. That's three of the big four, and I'm sure Blue Buffalo must do something with shelters. I'm just not aware of exactly what it is that they do. But you see that level of investment, and to me, and what I was talking about with Daryl is like, there's so much opportunity on, you mentioned pet insurance. I would think, again, I'm continually astounded by the low levels of adoption of pet insurance in this country. But if I worked for a pet insurance company and I was trying to grow market share, like these are the types of marketing opportunities that, they're just sitting there for you on a silver platter. I'd be curious, who are you working with as a pet insurance provider? Are you partnered with a number of companies, or?
So we are partnering. Our main one is called Ollie that we partner with, and we have an infrastructure through Rescue Spot that we're able to offer a few different pet insurance organizations. So as we grow and find different insurers that we think are best for adoptable pets, because not every insurer is very friendly to adoptable pets, we will continue to make sure that we are offering the best possible insurance to our adopters.
Well, so much about whether they're friendly to adoptable pets depends on the medical records that are attached to the pet, right? Because given that it's underwritten as P&C insurance, the idea of pre-existing conditions does not apply to pet insurance, even though it is health insurance for pets. Pets are treated as are viewed as property within the United States, and hence, as such, are insured as property and casualty insurance. But that does mean that, in from a business perspective, it makes total sense. You don't want people going and getting insurance for a pet that already has a condition, and then now you're all of a sudden on the hook paying for it. That's not how insurance works. But for pets that are adopted and they don't have a medical record, that is like the best time for you to buy insurance, because from there on, everything will be covered. It's the same thing as if you got pet insurance for a puppy. Um,
Exactly. And you're also
so
seeing right now a big uptick in wellness plans. We're also offering wellness plans because pet insurance, I totally agree with you. I don't know why everybody doesn't run out today and get pet insurance. My Yorkie, she had to get I think it was a $12,000 knee replacement. And I luckily had pet insurance and it cost me like $400. It was insane. And things like, if you're a pet owner and you've ever had a pet, then you will know that accidents will happen with your pet.
yes.
They're going to get in trouble. They're going to eat something. They're going to do something silly or, fall down, who knows, the stairs. And so having that pet insurance is so important. But I do understand that we still live in a world that pet insurance is still expensive. It's fairly new. So it can be expensive. And so now we're seeing this popularity in wellness plans where people are just spending $16 to $19 a month for wellness plans, where they're able to have all of their vaccines covered. They're able to have a few vet visits a year covered, and just make sure that if they're not able to commit financially, or if they're not able to financially provide insurance, they can still have something there to make sure their pet is on the right track.
Yeah. Oh, and it's so important to, ensure that they are going to the vet
Yeah.
regularly. I think back to an episode we did with Dr. Ben Hantler at Heska, and we focused all on preventative diagnostics. And, I think for so many people, you know, they don't realize the importance of taking your pet to the vet at least once a year, right?
Yeah.
It's so often vets are put in this situation where they see a pet that hasn't, come into the clinic in 5 years, and it's like, we could have caught this years ago, right? Like, this is way worse than it needed to be, because pets are good at masking pain. You didn't
Yeah.
bring them in, and now your dog or cat has something that, hopefully is still treatable, but would have been infinitely more treatable if you got them in regularly. So yeah, if you're not going to opt for pet insurance, I think the wellness plans are a great way to go. I mean, ultimately what we want to ensure is that pets are, receiving the care that they need, that they're being, we all call them members of the family, and, you just want to ensure that they're treated that way.
Yeah.
To me, I look at it like, if we're going to call, pets our fur babies, and our, another kid, you wouldn't let your kid be uninsured. You wouldn't let your kid miss their annual physical. Like, treat your dog or cat, the same way, or parrot, or whatever it is that you have. We largely focus on dogs and cats here, because that's where the majority of my consulting practice is. But there's so much, and I just look at it like, where you're a marketplace with Rescue Spot, not just for people who want to adopt pets, but you're also a marketplace for rescue organizations, right? And so a big part of the value, I think, that you're offering is if you can get them to buy into your vetting process, right? If you can get them to buy into this common app, or this credit bureau for pet parents, where I I submit my application once. You talked now. Are you talk to us a little bit about how you're handling the reference process here with Rescue Spot? Because I know you said, when you were working in the shelter, you could spend, you know, 40 hours a week just trying to track down references. But now you're doing that across organizations. How are you handling that? And what kind of I get, tell me that first, and then I want to talk to you a little bit about what the kind of response you're seeing from the rescues.
Yeah. So let me tell you, I'll give you the broad picture of just what Rescue Spot is doing for rescues and shelters, because it's very different than what we're doing for adopters in many ways. And in that, there is the reference process. So for rescues and shelters, we've taken so many things that used to be done just by volunteers, and we've totally automated it. So first of all, for rescues and shelters, they get a website style profile. A lot of our smaller rescues are actually using their profiles instead of a website, just because it's easy for them, and they're maybe run by people who are a little bit older and don't know how to keep websites up to date, or just rescues that are really just a hobby rescue and maybe they're doing 10 adoptions every 2 months. So they get a website style profile with a custom URL. They get a option to filter through all of their applications. So like we've gone back to a few times, you can get hundreds of applications, but how do you actually decide which is the best one? Well, a part of deciding which is the best one is weeding out the ones that don't work. So rescues and shelters are able to filter through all of the applications that they receive based on their own rescues requirements. So if they don't want to see people who don't believe in spaying and neutering, or who have given up a certain amount of pets in the past, or who don't plan on vaccinating their pets, or don't have landlord approval, they can choose any of the questions from our common app to be filtered out to a separate folder. So then they're getting maybe 20 applications that are really the ones that are the best possible options for them. With every application that a rescue receives, they get 3 to 5 verified references. So the way that that works is when an adopter or foster registers for Rescue Spot, we ask them for 3 to 5 references, and then we automatically email those references. They go through a persona verification. So just like when you apply for Uber or Lyft, you take a photo of yourself, a photo of your ID, and that biometric ID is then verified through the software. And then the
Are you
reference
using Clear for that or something else? Are you using Clear for that?
persona.
Persona. Okay.
Yes. So
Okay.
we use persona and it's automatically verified. If for some reason they're not able to be verified through their photo, then they go through, a background check of questions about their past. And then they answer they answer 6 questions about the adopter or foster. They're in-depth questions that we ask, and the rescue organizations get those references and their statements automatically attached to the application. So they see that instantly when they see an application. What can happen in the world of rescue is that often people will pretend that they're their own reference, or they'll have like their spouse give the reference saying it's somebody else. And often there are 2 ways that it goes. There's a huge issue with dog fighting and with nefarious people who are trying to adopt pets to either resell them or to dog fight them and do terrible, cruel things with those animals. So those are the first group of people that will often use themselves as references, or people who are not legitimate people. And they don't want to give their real information, of course, because they don't want to be tracked down if that pet is ever, their microchip is ever then identified and brought back to the rescue organization. So that's one way that we at Rescue Spot are targeting that, by actually seeing people's real IDs and making sure that they are real people and having those records of their real information. And then you've just got people who don't want to actually give their real references, maybe aren't great pet parents. And so through going through this process, we're able to really find the best possible fits and people that are really serious about what they're doing. So that's how we do the reference process. It saves over 30 hours a week for a medium-sized rescue. And then rescues, of course, are able to grow their foster program through the fostering options, gain donations through the donation process, and fill out all adoption contracts on their side, release any medical records, and have all shelter management software like intake and vaccines and whatnot in one place through Rescue Spot.
That's cool. And so, when you're, I guess a couple things that, and I want to get to the reaction that you've seen from the rescues and shelters, but are you leveraging AI within the platform at all now? Is that on the roadmap? Or
Yes, so we do. We haven't launched it to the public yet, but it's in the works that we will be heavily leveraging AI. I mean, I've been working on Rescue Spot for about 3 years, and in those 3 years, the tools that are available to us are just constantly changing and are just so amazing for what we're trying to do. So we are going to be leveraging AI in a multitude of ways. I mentioned earlier that we will be able to suggest the best possible pet products for a pet owner. So since we do have the medical records of a pet, we're going to be taking that information through AI, looking at all of the different pet foods out there, all of the different pet products, pet supplements and whatnot, and then suggesting the best possible options for pet adopters for their pet, taking everything into account. So taking in if they have a sensitive stomach, if they've got diabetes, if they've got glaucoma, but they also have skin issues and skin sensitivities. So we'll really be doing something really
This is an algorithm you've developed yourself?
We're working on that right now. Yeah.
Very. So we've done some work. I don't know if you're familiar. Royal Canin launched a D2C product that had to be purchased through vets. They launched it in Europe a few years ago, and I think it's got some penetration in the US now. I think they've brought it to the US, but last I knew it was only available through like 30 veterinary clinics in the US. That number might be up now. I haven't checked, recently, so I'm sure it probably has. But they have you do a vet exam. They put in, everything, the breed, the any identified conditions, weight, age, and then it runs it through this algorithm to create a customized diet. And it's called Individualis. It has like 10,000 possible different permutations, and they custom make that diet and ship it to the pet parent. I think they also have, for other clinics, they have an algorithm called Smart Reco, which does a similar thing. It takes all the information about the pet and then cross-references it against the all the possible Royal Canin diets that are out there. And if you're familiar at all with just their OTC line, not even getting into all their therapeutic diets, there's a lot out there, from breed specific to condition specific to combination diets and things like that. And Hills has a similar one. I think theirs is called Quick Reco, that algorithmically goes through. I think the thing we're all waiting to see is there's increasingly more genetic information out there, right? And so we could be on the verge of true personalized diet and nutrition recommendations for dogs and cats. You look at things like Wisdom Panel or Embark or Base Paws, that there are, DNA My Dog, things like, there's so many DNA solutions out there. Have you looked at all into partnering with any of those companies to potentially inform your algorithm and your nutrition recommendations?
We have, yeah. Our hope, our end game, or our end goal, one of our end goals is to either partner up or be acquired by like the Chewies and Petcos of the world, so that we're able to go through the pet adoption process, have the pets in our care, or have the pets' medical records in our care, and then take all that information, give them options like Embark or Base Paws, have them go through that, have all that information then be put into our system automatically, because they're registering and purchasing the product through Rescue Spot. So it's in their dashboard. And then being able to say, okay, well, because we're partnered with Chewy, here is every single product from the Chewy store that is the perfect mix for your exact pet. Another thing that's in our down the line hope is to be able to then actually partner with a subscription food like the Farmer's Dog, where we make a specialized food for that specific pet. Just like today, you can get specialized hair products and shampoo for your exact hair, to have that for your pet that you can all purchase through Rescue Spot without having to send this information to different people.
Yeah. No, I mean, we've seen it happen with Individualis and a kibble. I don't see a reason why you couldn't do it with a fresh or frozen refrigerated product. I mean, I think what it underscores, I mean, we're in a time right now where data is going to become king in the pet industry. We're already seeing it with Mars and the Pet Insight Project, and how they're marrying data from Wisdom and their veterinary holdings and the Whistle Tracker, and you have to think that at some point that's going to be utilized to uh, create individualized solutions and preventative medicine and things like that. We see companies like Animal Biome, which are, doing at-home fecal testing and then making diet and supplement recommendations on the basis of those tests. And I know they're looking to partner with different nutrition companies. It's interesting. I think you're the first person I've talked to that's really looked at it at like an ecosystem level and thought about partnering with a retailer. So much of what we see is on a brand specific level where brands are looking to do this and they're looking to create personalized, individualized diet recommendations, or algorithmically generated diet recommendations, to best match your pet to an existing product. But that's all done from the perspective of consumer loyalty to a particular brand. What you're proposing here is, okay, let's look outside, let's look across the ecosystem of brands within a particular retailer. How far along have you gotten in those discussions? Have you talked with Chewy, PetSmart, Petco, Pet Supplies Plus, anyone, interested in this? What
So it's funny, just as a side note, it's funny that you mentioned that the brand loyalty, because the thing is about adopting a pet is it's kind of like having a baby. When you have a baby, you don't have brand loyalty because you've never really gone through this before. Of course, people have had pets before quite often when they're adopting a pet and have brands that they like, but you do have an opportunity there, sort of like the space race for whoever can get to them fastest can establish.
that's why I was saying that's why they all invest so much in these shelter programs, and they're giving
Exactly.
coupon, this is what they were fed in the shelter. They were fed Purina, they were fed Pedigree, they were fed Hills. And here's a coupon, to take home with you, and you can get, a free bag or half off your first bag, or, you know,
Exactly. Exactly.
that investment up front leads to, a customer for life on the back end. People
Exactly.
don't, there is that strong brand loyalty, but you're opening it up to, you know, moving that, to let's look across the ecosystem, and I'm going to partner with the retailer.
Yeah. And
Um,
yeah, that's one of the things that we've found is that we are having a lot of people come to us because we have this very valuable data of the information of a pet owner and the exact type of pet that they have and the pet's medical record the second that they become a pet owner, not 2 weeks later after they adopt the pet and then go to the vet and that information is then put out into the world. We have the information of a pet owner the second that they become a pet owner, the medical records of that dog or cat, the issues that they might have and ways that we can now target them. And so one of the reasons, and that's why we really are looking down the route of more of a retailer. We are open to, of course, any different kind of partnership, but I think that the way that we will be able to be the most successful for adopters is by offering the best of everybody and not just the best of one company, because when adopting a pet, there are just so many different issues that they can have, that there might be a niche supplement that deals with dogs that have 5 different very rare conditions, and this niche supplement is sold by one company that only deals with that when you're then purchasing Hill's dog food, they might they don't care about that because so few people have that. So that's why we are looking down the route, hoping to go down the route of working with the Chewies and Petcos of the world. This is something that's fairly new for us. We launched about a year ago. So this is like our next step of bringing Rescue Spot to the next spot and to the bringing Rescue Spot to the next level and really opening up the world. So, we are looking for any connections like that. We do have a few in the mix right now that we're working with, but I think that Rescue Spot would be very valuable to these sort of organizations, because to these sort of companies, because we do have a funnel for them of new customers constantly coming through.
yeah, yeah. So you're looking then to monetize this through, are you charging shelters anything to be on the platform? Is there like when we talk about your business model, obviously you're offering a lot of valuable services, on both sides, but you're serving needs for shelters on the one hand. You're reducing their administrative burden, you're making it easier for them to sort through applications, you're giving them pre-vetted, pre-qualified applicants, um, and serving as a database there. On the other side of it, you are vastly simplifying the process for adopters because I can fill out an application one time. And even if I'm not successful for my first adoption, or, I adopt a pet and then I want to come back and adopt a second pet through Rescue Spot, I don't have to refill that application out. You're taking, are you charging adopters anything to use the platform? Are you charging shelters anything to use the platform? And then where do you see that, other revenue stream coming from? Is it, a commission on product sales from a retailer like Chewy, or, revenue sharing agreements with the various brands that might want to partner with you?
Yeah. So the way that we work is that we do not charge anything to the rescue organizations. Rescue organizations really don't have the money to spare that it would be worth it for us to charge them and then to lose out on rescues who say, well, we don't have that money to spend. Let's just not do it. So we don't charge anything to the rescues. Our whole motto is to make things easier for the rescues. We have a ton of marketing opportunities and sponsorships and things that we actually do with the rescues that we work with to try and get more money for them and to try and get more exposure for them. We work with Free Movies Plus and have streaming commercials for all of our rescues where during their streaming, like TV spots, they'll show Rescue Spot adoptable pets for the rescue of the month that we're working with. So a lot of really cool things. Gabby Epstein, who's got 3 million followers, is our head of on Instagram, is our head of brand and social impact. And she post different Rescue Spot pets each week. So we just want to support the rescues and not take their money. We do charge a $20 adoption fee to anyone who adopts through Rescue Spot. So if they adopt a pet, then we just tack on a $20 fee for that. That might not be something that we keep forever, but that's just for right now, how we are able to keep funding the business and keep Rescue Spot going. But our real monetization comes through these partnerships, through the pet insurance sales, through the brand partnerships and sales of pet foods and whatnot that we're doing. So for pet insurance, that's the first one that we're starting. That's the first one that's launched through Rescue Spot, where we get a rev share with the pet insurance company. It's very great because anyone who signs up for Rescue Spot for pet insurance through Rescue Spot, we get a piece of that insurance for the entirety of their relationship with the insurance company. So that's just money that's constantly coming in.
They're treating you as an agent, so to speak.
Exactly. So that is our first monetization outside of the adoptions. And then we're really banking on partnerships of people purchasing pet insurance, purchasing the different partnerships that we have, like partnerships with Gentle Beast, which is a really amazing new pet training platform, and different things like that.
I would imagine there's got to be huge potential in partnering with one of the DNA companies because, for so many, adopted pets, they're not purebred, they're mixed breed. People want to know what they are. I think every study we've ever done on, the at-home DNA test kit pet diagnostic market, it's generally a one-time sale to parents of an adopted mixed breed pet. The other main market for it is breeders who need to be able to prove the lineage and the purity of the line. But I know when we adopted Peony, I was so curious. I was like, okay, she's a lab mix. What else is she? And it was really cool to get that info. So I would imagine that you would find tremendous, being able to add that to your cart when you're, checking out, finishing your adoption. That's really cool. And and the other thing, like you said, there's so many sponsorship opportunities. There's also, I see on the website, you have the get involved. You can, click on the link to volunteer. You can do the events. I know you mentioned donate. Have you added? What are you using to facilitate the donations to specific pets or rescues right now?
So we're currently doing donations in-house. So when you see a pet through Rescue Spot, you're able to donate directly to them. We don't keep any of the money that passes through our platform to rescues. So you can donate $10,000 and we won't keep a cent of that from the rescue organization. So we do that all in-house through our payment processing system called Justify. And with Rescue Spot, there are so many ways that you're able to give back, even if maybe you're not ready to adopt a pet. You can foster a pet, you can see volunteer opportunities in your area. We always suggest for people to just reach out to rescues and shelters and say, hey, I can't volunteer in person or whatever it is, but this is my skill, because people often want to help animals and don't realize that their skill is very valuable to these rescues that don't have the money to go out and hire an event planner or a photographer or someone who's really great at editing videos, someone who's great at editing photos, things like that, or someone maybe who has a really large following or just has a great group of friends in their school community that they could do a lunch that's geared towards the rescue and just talking about how the rescue needs help or the different animals that they have. So we try really hard at Rescue Spot to not just be a technology company that is just connecting rescues and shelters, but at the core of it is here to make money. We try to really make money, but be compassionate and help these rescues and shelters and get adoptable pets into the arms of people who want them and who are desperate to have them and don't want to go to pet stores and breeders, but are having a hard time filling the need of a pet. And that's why, like I mentioned, we're doing these partnerships with Free Movies Plus and these different amazing influencer programs and whatnot to help the rescues get the exposure that they really need.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with making some money, doing it along the way.
Exactly.
If you, it's needed work. It's commendable work. It's heartwarming work. I'm really excited to watch the growth of the company. How many rescues and shelters do you have on the platform as of right now?
We have about 150 rescues and shelters that are on the platform. We just got a ton of them that are integrating right now. But we have, really rescues and shelters all over America. We are currently focusing on the East Coast and the West Coast just because we are a new organization and we have to sort of concentrate everything into our areas. And as we are doing these different influencer programs, we found that it makes more sense to focus on, the areas that we have the influencers we're working with. But one of the really cool things about some of the rescues that we're working with, is that they are rescuing dogs from the Asian meat trade. And so they're getting dogs from China and Korea. They have partner rescues and shelters out there. And then they bring those pets to the US, and those pets can be adopted anywhere actually globally, anywhere globally. But of course, through Rescue Spot, you're probably in the US where you're looking. So you're able to find these pets, and they're highly adoptable pets. They are Yorkshire Terriers, Golden Retrievers, Corgis, Samoyeds. They're purebred dogs that have been factory farmed, stolen from people's houses. And I have tons of friends who adopted them. They're amazing pets. And so if you're not able to find a pet in your area and maybe there's a specific breed that you want, I definitely recommend looking at those animals that are coming from the other countries. And they're very well adjusted and just as sweet as could be.
That is really cool. That's very cool. That's a neat story. I almost kind of want to leave everybody on that note, but I did want to, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. You have 150 rescues. How many adopters have you had sign up?
We've had about 1,500 adopters. We've got a good amount of adopters and fosters that are just constantly coming onto the platform. So we haven't spent any money on marketing. We're really grassroots in that sense of just trying to find unique ways to get the word out there. And we've got, you know, maybe almost 80,000 website views in the past few months. It's you know, we're getting traction of people seeing these animals on the platform and people coming onto the platform and registering on there. So it's great.
That, anything we can do to end pet homelessness, I think I'm all in favor of. Eh, there's nothing that makes you more sad than thinking of a dog or cat on the street or living out their days in a shelter. And like you said, there is a booming business that surrounds this the compassion that we all show to animals.
Yeah, I want to mention actually quickly, I know we're finishing, but as we're speaking about this boom that's happening, it's happening largely in part of the cities and states that are banning the sales of cats and dogs in pet stores. You know, in California, you can't buy a pet in a pet store. In New Jersey, you can't buy a pet. In Massachusetts, in Oregon, they just banned it. In New York, they banned it. The ban is about to go into act. But as more and more states follow suit and ban the sale of cats and dogs in pet stores, the demand on rescues and shelters are only going to rise. And that's why right now is such an important time for us to be there and kind of like, okay, we can take the hard work off of you as you get more and more applications and whatnot. So we're really just seeing the beginning. And especially as millennials are the largest owners of pets in the US, millennials want to do everything. I'm a millennial. I want to do everything online, and I want to do it quickly, and I want to do it from my phone and not have to deal with doing things over and over and over again. I want to do it fast and instantly. So that's
Yeah.
why I'm here.
It's a time saver, right? I mean, that if we look at do you go out to lunch? Do you leave your desk, go to down the street, buy a sandwich, go back to your desk and eat it, or do you place an order on DoorDash, keep working, and then eat when the sandwich arrives? Right? I think any amount of time you can save in your day, that's the direction the economy's heading. I mean, you look at Carvana for cars, you look, Rescue Spot for Pet Finder, Adopt a Pet for pet adoptions, and as you mentioned, you have that one-time application, and so I think it must promote. I'll be interested to see. I know you guys have only been around about a year now, but the number of repeat adopters that you get, and that because that's a big piece of intractable loyalty. Is like, hey, I do this application once and I don't have to do it again. And so the next time I need to adopt, or the next time I want to foster, is it a separate application for adopt versus foster, or one?
You fill out the one universal application. We have questions that cover all of it. The questions cover volunteering, fostering. It's about 65 questions, so it's really in depth. And the cool thing is, if we don't cover questions that a rescue has, they're still able to ask those questions, but they'll just pop up when you click adopt. So you have your universal application that's sent, but if the rescue has a really specific rescue question for their organization, then when you click adopt, those 2 to 3 questions will pop up and you can fill it all out for them. So it is still customized to the rescue, which is very cool, because I think in the past, like when we spoke with Andrew, when I spoke with Andrew, who you were mentioning earlier, who did something similar, rescues often don't want to do somebody else's application. They want to do their own because they're very specific about their pets. So we've found workarounds that we can really customize ourselves for the rescues while still simplifying everything for the adopter.
Yeah. And I can only imagine, the more rescues that you get on the platform, that's just going to further, enforce this as being the standard, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's always made sense to me. If we can have a database of, known travelers and TSA pre-check or global entry, and we can have, credit bureaus that let people know, let you know whether you're trustworthy to lend money to, like, we should be able to put together, a database, an app that lets that animal rescues and shelters can put their faith in to say like, okay, you've been approved by Rescue Spot, we can adopt this dog to you. So yeah, no, I think it's super cool, and we'll, hopefully we can reconnect and have you back on the program at some point in the future, and hear how things are going. And I look forward to sitting back and watching the growth. And I definitely can see Peony is I think prefers being an only dog. I wish she could talk so I could ask her, but at some point, hopefully not anytime soon. She'll be 9 and on Christmas Eve, but definitely we'll be putting in my application for future potential adoptions.
We'll be waiting. Hopefully not soon. Hopefully not soon, but we'll be there.
No, I say, when you talk about supplements, we've got her on. My goal is to get her to live to 20, as long as she's enjoying life.
Yeah.
Well, Nicole, thank you so much for coming on today. Again, I think this is a phenomenal product, phenomenal idea, great solution that was sorely lacking in the industry, and I'm really hopeful people will see it and feel the same way that I did about it, and we'll just see those adoption numbers continue to skyrocket. But I look forward to being in touch and seeing how the journey goes.
Thank you so much, and it was so much fun chatting with you. You're so well informed in the industry, so it's always fun to speak with people who really get it.
Well, thank you. I try. I appreciate the kind words. Everyone, thank you so much for listening today. On behalf of Nicole and Rescue Spot, I'm Peter Kenseth with Pet Working, VP at Maya Strategy Group. And we will see you again for another episode real soon. But in the meantime, go check out Rescue Spot if you're considering adopting a new member of the family around the holidays. A great place to start. And if you're just considering, maybe get an application in there, and once you're approved, whenever the time is right for you to add a new friend to your family, you'll be ready to go. So wishing everybody a very happy holiday, and we look forward to seeing you on another episode again soon. Nicole, thanks so much for joining. Have a great day, everyone. Pet Working is presented by Maya Strategy Group, a leading market research and strategy consulting firm, helping clients in the pet care and animal health industries navigate strategic challenges for almost 2 decades.